Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best, if he wins, knows the thrills of high achievement, and if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat."
So, yeah, I got to thank CrossFit Raid.
Yeah.
Without the CrossFit Raid, we'd never be doing this.
Nope.
So that's pretty cool. It's funny. When I first got to the gym, I wasn't sober.
Okay.
I was like in and out. So you're standoffish. You're not I'm not mean. I was never mean, but now I talk to everybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I went right up to you the one day. We just started talking, and
yeah, we've been going there for the same. We didn't even know we were from the same area,
right?
Until you started talking.
That's the craziest part. You just turned 42, so happy birthday!
Thank you.
I'm 41. You go up Vogue, right?
Yeah, right down the street.
Tacony. Mm-hmm. It's two of the worst neighborhoods in the area, especially now.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, it was awesome.
Oh, I loved it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That was one of the things, growing up there, you could walk, to the corner store, and all
Everywhere.
my friends were around. I rode my bike. I had a lot of freedom as a child. Sometimes I think back and I'm like, I had way too much freedom as a kid.
I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I remember being 10 years old, and my dad and my uncle took me and my cousin to WrestleMania or some kind of wrestling event down the Spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy lived 5 blocks away, and it's dark out. And I'm like, Dad, I really want to go show my buddy the number one Hulk Hogan thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
This is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And nowadays you would never do that.
Nope.
Never do that.
Nope.
The whole neighborhood has changed.
Yeah. Not just there, but all around. My niece is 4, and I feel like everyone has to watch her all the time. And I'm but my sister was 4. My mom was like, go take her to the park. And we're 5 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a lot of, under 5, a lot of time with her without my mom.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's they need to be watched all the time. But they do, for the most part, because things have changed. There's a lot more out there.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
When I was my sister was a good swimmer when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in 7th grade, the summer going into 8th grade, my mom signed us up for some kind of swim camp at Jardel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we lived at Princeton and Hegerman. We would walk down to Cotman Ave and take the 70.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm in fucking 7th grade. So what's that, 11?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We would take it
11,
home. And it was totally normal. Totally normal.
Yeah, now if you're on the bus, where's your parent?
Yeah. It's funny about Vogue and Tacony. I always wished I was from Mayfair because I thought Mayfair was a step up in the world. All the drug addict kids I knew from grade school were all from Vogue, all from Tacony. They were pill heads before I even knew what pill heads were. Right?
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So my mom was a crossing guard in front of one of the public schools there.
Which one? Distant?
Distant.
Yeah, I went there for 3 years.
Yep. So
I went
she
there.
was the crossing guard outside of there for a very, very long time.
No shit.
Yeah. And I actually went to a Catholic school in the area, and I hated it.
Where'd you go?
I went to St. Leo's.
Okay.
So I hated it because the boys were bullies, and I found out one of these bullies was related to me. It was
Really?
so weird. And it was just all this stuff from the neighborhood, and they saw them in the neighborhood all the time. And my mom was like, we're going to get you out of this school. So she sent me to this Ukrainian school.
Oh, Josephat's?
Yes.
No shit.
Yeah.
Do you know Drew Memorella?
I don't think so.
He might have been a year younger than
I
you.
remember there being a Drew, but I don't remember the name. So these kids were bussed in from all different places. There were some in the neighborhood, a lot of Russian and Ukrainian kids. We did learn Ukrainian starting in 2nd grade.
That's crazy.
My mom was like, I don't know anything about this, but that definitely saved me in an aspect there going to that school, I think. She would always threaten to send me to Distant. I did go there for 1 year. 1 year. I hated it. But she was like, oh, I'll send you there if you're going to be bad.
Right.
Because she just dealt with it every day. So, but that also kept me with the whole neighborhood. She knew every cop. She knew everybody. So
Nice.
she's always like, oh, you get caught doing something, I'm going to know about it.
Yeah.
So, especially I look exactly like my mother. So
Really?
it was like hard to deny she was my mom. Yes.
So I had like an opposite situation. I went to Our Lady of Consolation first, second, half of third grade. And I got to ask my mom this, like to see exactly what happened, but they pulled me out mid third grade. The teacher, Miss McLaughlin, was so fucking mean to me.
Oh, I had a teacher named Miss McLaughlin. So
She
that's
was
really weird.
Yeah, she was so mean to me. And like I was the type of student, I would get my work done fast. I was always a good student. And then you have all this time to do nothing until everyone else gets their work done. And I was a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Not just like talking and shit. So I think the perception was that she was picking on me. They pulled me out mid third grade, which is weird. And then they sent me to distant, third, fourth, and fifth grade. So I don't know if there was like any financial issues with my parents back then, because obviously Catholic school was expensive, public school was free.
Yes.
I think it might have been in part that, but when I went to distant,
It got worse.
it was actually the schoolwork was way more intense. It was
Really?
so much more schoolwork at distant
Oh, wow.
that I remember at Consolation.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. But you would see fights in the schoolyard, and it was not abnormal. I've gotten into fights. I've gotten beat up. Like nothing crazy, but like this,
Yeah.
it wasn't abnormal.
Yeah.
It was the first time I was in school with a bunch of people being bussed in, and I think that was a good thing to kind of experience that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And then my parents brought me back to Consolation in sixth grade. Again, like you're an adult now. I don't remember specifically why these things happened.
Right.
I always remember, like, always think, like, I gotta ask my mom one day, like, what the fuck did this happen? But yeah, what a fucking eye-opening experience just to kind of see a different side of things. There was kids selling drugs in like fourth and fifth grade at public school.
Yeah.
I remember this one kid, this real skinny kid. He always had really nice clothes on, and he had wads of money. And I'm like, we're like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then you find out like he was selling drugs. I'm like, this is like real life. It's like so crazy.
I know they're just way too young for it. My mom,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. My mom definitely knew all these kids in the neighborhood, knew who the troublemakers were, knew all this, and I was definitely didn't know about that drugs,
Right.
the drug wise, but I knew about who to stay away from.
Yeah.
Who was hanging out at the park. And then as I got a little bit older, I started hanging out with a couple of girls from distant. And we kept like, oh my God, I don't feel like I should be doing this. This is crazy. Like, this is so different. And I moved on to softball, played for a competitive team. And every weekend we were in another state.
Yeah, I
playing.
remember you saying that. They kind of
Yes.
kept you out of trouble.
It literally did, because
Yeah.
I was away from there every weekend. I was never home. And like when I came home sad, if I was home like close by, I'd have to get up Sunday at like 7 a.m.
Right.
You know, when you're a kid, 7 a.m. seems like the
Yeah,
earliest.
super early. Super early.
So that definitely kept me out of a lot of it, for sure.
Yeah, because the Vogue kids, man, like I'm friendly with a couple of them because a couple of them are sober, but there was levels to drinking and getting high, and they were always at the top of the fucking level, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even like I would drink, and I don't think I started doing drugs until like midway through high school, but like it wasn't like I wouldn't even say I was doing drugs. I just happened to have done them a handful of times. But
Right.
these kids were like taking Xanax and going to class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sneaking drinks into school. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, you know, looking back, I thought it was crazy. And then I ended up turning into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at a little bit of an older age, when you
Yeah.
see it that young, you're like, what?
Well, getting good grades was always important to me. Like, you know what I mean? Regardless of, and it wasn't even like my parents didn't like beat that into me. It was just, I just wanted to get good grades. You know what I mean? I just like, it was important. Like, and I said this to Megan before, and she like makes fun of me. Like, I was embarrassed to do bad. You know, if I got bad grades, I would be embarrassed. Like, if I'm not prepared for class and you have to like stand up in front of the group and talk about your presentation, if you're not prepared, like that's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it really is.
I would hate that.
But like usually if someone isn't prepared like that, that's another reason why they act out, or they act like they're, you know,
Yeah.
but you're smart to begin with, so you probably just had that in you.
Yeah. Working hard was always like just, you know, instilled in me. That was the one thing. Like, wasn't necessarily like school, but like sports. You know, my dad was my coach. I played all 4 sports in grade school, and like it was just a part. You know how it goes. It's just a part of life.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure.
Yeah.
And I always say like going to that Ukrainian school was really weird. We had like old school nuns. I always say it was like Matilda. You had to like, the nun would come out and like ring a bell, and we'd have to stand in like perfect silence.
Yeah.
Before we realized. And we still had kids that misbehaved. There's
Sure.
still kids doing things, but like they would bring their parents in and they would like beat them in front of us.
That's
like
crazy.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
So it was definitely different than the other two schools that I went in, where
Right.
there were consequences to things that were happening.
Yeah.
So-
Consolation was, you're going back like early 90s. 1989, I was in first grade. And I only remember that because I wrote a love letter to a girl and put the date on it. So, but I was in grade school, a Consolation, and we had a nun, Sister Marianne. And I don't know if you remember the old school starter jackets.
Oh, of course I do.
They had like these black pumps on the
Yes.
strings.
People used to collect them or steal them.
Yeah. So did I tell you about this before?
No,
Oh
this is just
my
like
God. So somebody cut them off, all the jackets in the coat
wow.
room.
Oh, wow.
And no one knew who did it. So Sister Marianne, this devil woman, she made everyone write anonymously who they thought did it.
What?
I had the most votes.
Oh my God.
And I didn't do it.
That's crazy.
Right? So she makes me stand up in front of the class.
and apologize.
Well, she says your classmates. Now I'm going back 30 plus years, but
Pointing the finger at you.
your classmates think that you did it, and I'm crying.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Oh my
And she's
gosh.
like, "Well, you must be guilty. Why are you crying?" And I was like, I remember this is like 30 plus years ago. I remember like it was yesterday. This bitch. I was like, man.
Yeah.
But to
that's
your point,
totally wrong.
the
way to
nuns
do
don't
it.
play around there.
No,
dude.
they don't. We had someone threw a sandwich out and the nun pulled it out of the trash can, pinned it to the board, made us all stare at it until somebody finally confessed that they threw out their lunch.
That's crazy.
But like to like make them vote that you are the
yeah,
one. Like,
yeah.
that's-
It was and like some of these things, like if you talk to a normal person now, they're like, dude, that's traumatic, bro. I'm like, at the time, it felt like it was.
Yeah, that's like, see, it's something you're not going to forget.
No.
Like I definitely still have like the scary nun. Like I was the
Mm-hmm.
one that had to go pick up the hot dogs from her. That she, again, Matilda, she's like making hot dogs, and I'm coming down to pick them up for the class, and one fell, and I was so scared of
Yeah.
her. I picked it up off the ground. I turned around, she grabbed my arm, and was like, "You're gonna give that hot dog to someone," and like hit my arm, and I was just like, I'm just so scared of her. So yeah, those nuns did not play, and I
Yeah.
don't think people these days like get that
Yeah,
kind
because
of.
you can't do any of that kind of shit now.
No.
Dude, so one more thing it reminds me. So I remember like there was like a lot of time to go to the bathroom. Like you couldn't just raise your hand and say you had to go to the bathroom at Consolation. So one
Yeah.
of the times where I must have been in first, second grade because it just comes with the age. But I guess I dropped my pants and my underwear down to my ankles to pee at the urinal. And the teacher or the nun saw me and told my mom. And my mom was pissed at them for checking me out while I'm taking a piss. You know what I mean? Like, this is like the shit that would happen like in the early 90s, late 80s in Catholic school.
Like,
You know?
it's totally true.
Anyway. So walk me through it. You where'd you go to high school?
I went to Hubert's.
Did you go to Hubert's? Terrible
Yep.
school.
Yeah. I
Now
mean, it was
is.
what it was.
Now it was. Or now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went there because like my whole family went there. I could walk there.
Yeah.
It's in the neighborhood.
Hey, where'd you grow up exactly?
Literally, I grew up right down the street from Vogue Playground on the other side of
Okay.
Vogue, like closer to, I don't even remember, like between McGee and Unruh.
Yeah, my dad, his
Mm-hmm.
last house was at Unruh and Jackson, so
Yeah.
right around the corner from you, across from that pizza place that used to be there at the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were there until I went to college. So we were there. And my mom actually bought the house from her parents. So she was there for
Forever.
30 years.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I went to high school. Then I went out to college on the main line. Only lasted 2 years.
What,
there.
St. Joe's?
I went to Rosemont.
Rosemont. That
Yeah.
sounds expensive.
Yeah.
Was
One
it
of the
like a-
reasons I left.
Was
It's
it
like,
a scholarship for softball?
no, I played softball there though. They was D3, so they didn't offer scholarships.
Got it.
But I did go there for 2 years. Had no idea what I was doing with myself, and was like, okay, I'm spending way too much money
Yeah.
here. So I left. And again, I think that being there was good for me. It got me to see different. You know, there were a lot of people that had money there. Grew up completely different than me.
Yeah.
So it was actually good for me to get out of the neighborhood. But then when I left there, I came back. And when I came back, I had a shitty job at a diner, another job doing like filing. I wasn't really doing anything or going anywhere. I was doing community school, which was again like a joke up in Northeast, which was full of people who were like, I felt had
What,
no
Northeast
interest.
Community Campus?
Yes.
Okay.
So I did start to go downtown, and I actually liked it better. I felt
I
like
liked it there. I went there.
I feel like the people downtown like there were better teachers. People wanted to learn more.
I thought it was a good college experience.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely like downtown better, but the Northeast I hated. I just was people not paying attention, didn't care. You know, lots of breaks for people to do things and come back messed up in class, and teachers are locking you out of class, and I'm like, we're supposed to be adults now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be college. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I wanted to get out of being back here, but look, I'm still here.
Yeah, well, I always joke around, like, Philadelphia to me is like Middletown, Oklahoma. You're either a cop, firefighter, teacher, union, and you never fucking leave.
Yeah.
You never fucking leave. Whether it's good or bad, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I said. Like when I went to college out in the main line, I'm like, well, where I'm from, like the opportunities are different and what people aspire to be are different. Not to say there's not these like one-offs or a couple people that are like, I want to be a doctor, I'm going to do this. It just wasn't like the mainstream thing.
Yeah.
So then going to the college, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with myself. So, because none of the stuff at college is like the blue collar working where I'm at. It's all like psychology, and I'm like, I don't think I want to do that.
Right. Yeah, I remember my first sociology class. I'm like, man, like my first semester back at college was at CCP, and my first class ever was sociology, and I'm like, there's just so many things about the world I have no fucking idea.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
good? What's good?
Yeah,
That's what college is
exactly.
supposed to be.
Yeah, and that was the other thing with my parents. It was really hard because they didn't really go anywhere, so we didn't do a whole lot of traveling either. I wasn't on my first plane ride until I think I was 19 or 18, and it was for softball.
Okay.
So and now I definitely changed that up.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I've lived all over Philadelphia, but I'm back up here.
Good, bad,
It's better.
better.
As
Okay.
being older, when you're
Yeah.
young, you want to live in the city.
Yeah.
You're older, like I just want a parking spot.
Right. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So you're a nurse now, right? Mm-mm. You're not a nurse?
No.
Why did I think that?
Because I work in a hospital.
Oh,
I
okay.
worked in a hospital for literally probably like 20 years now. It's
Okay.
crazy. I worked at Penn. Now I work at Einstein.
Okay.
I left Penn during the pandemic. Never thought I was going to leave Penn, but so glad I did.
Are you really?
Yeah, I don't take the train anymore, and it's like different. Penn is so big. I mean, Einstein is completely different. I work in a very underprivileged area, but I'm a resident coordinator. I work
Okay.
with the residents, getting them through their residency to be adult doctors.
So what is that like? Do you like it?
I do.
Yeah.
It's definitely different than anything I've done before. I like it. But I'm getting older and the residents are getting younger. Like the class coming in this year will be born in 1997, and
Which
I'm like,
is crazy.
it's crazy.
82, right?
Yeah.
83. I know. Yes.
Yeah.
We're out of high school longer than we were in school
Yeah.
in total.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
But I do like it for the most part. Do it? It's my forever thing. I don't know, but it's definitely been different than before. I was working for the COO of neurosurgery. It was a lot of like business, working with different big wigs.
Right.
Now I'm down with the kid. I'll call them kids, but they're still adults.
Right.
But they're younger and getting them established.
Yeah. That's kind of how it is with similar with construction managers. Like the superintendents keep getting older. The assistant project managers stay the same age, which is
Yeah.
like 21, 22.
Yeah.
So, you're trying to like work as a team and you just have two total backgrounds, experience levels. But I think that's
Yeah.
what makes a good team. Like you got to kind of find some common ground to get the job done. Right. So that's,
Yeah.
so I get
And that's
that.
the other thing. Like these residents are coming in not just from Philadelphia, but from all different areas. And they're working in a very underprivileged area. They're seeing a different aspect of their profession they want to be.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean, whether you're in an affluent area or not, like people get sick.
Yeah.
People need help.
Yeah.
Right. So do you ever notice like some of the doctors or residents that feel like they want to be in those areas, or do they always want to get out and go to the UPenns or, the other areas?
I think it depends on what their specialty is. So, I mean, I'm with orthopedics. So, people are going to need orthopedics no matter where you are.
yeah.
So I think that's different. When I was at Penn, it was really big for like heart cancer, brains. Since I worked in neurosurgery, we would have people like flown there for
Yeah.
treatment because
Right.
Penn was so good for that treatment.
Yeah, they're one of the best hospitals in the nation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it just all depends. For
Right.
sure.
So when did you get into CrossFit?
Oh God, I got in the CrossFit. Well, I actually went to, so that was the other thing. Like after CCP and all this stuff, I was like still not really sure what to do with myself. I went to NPTI, the National Personal
Yeah, we
Training
talked about that. I went there.
Yeah, so I went there. You went there. Dustin went there. One of our old coaches went there. I did that, and it really helped me.
Yeah, it was a great place
Yeah.
to understand how the body moves and like kind of what the goals are for fitness.
Yeah, and
I
you know,
learned
for a
lot.
woman, just to get that, you know, for a woman back then, not that it was that long ago, but still, like, not everyone was into this CrossFit or weightlifting. Women were still doing a lot of cardio. So it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Once I graduated, though, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I didn't want it as a profession. I really wanted it more as like understanding like how to get fit and things. I played sports, but our training sucked as children. They were like, run sprints, do this. It wasn't.
Yeah. Now it seems like, I guess depending on what high school, like I did a couple year stint as the assistant strength coach at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy. And it's kind of similar to your experience on the main line. You see these 16-year-old kids with like $100,000 cars that their parents bought with cash. And you're like,
yeah.
that's fucking insane. And some are nice, some are great kids, and some are kids of rich parents who know it and act like it. So it's, my point was that the training at a school like that was way more intense than like a father judge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like they care, they had a specific program, they taught you things. Not the judge didn't, just you're just talking about different levels.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, the money is obviously considerably different.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
it's still
too.
different now, Judge, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of different.
We won't even talk about the weightlifting coach at my high school. It was so uncomfortable that we were like, we don't want to do that anymore with that man. And they were like, okay, you don't have to. So we just didn't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, after MPTI, I decided to go to a CrossFit gym. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. But I was like in a different part of my life where it was like in a different area, different relationships. Like it didn't really take off the way I wanted it to. And I ended up back here. And this is when Reed was at their old gym.
Yeah, where was that at?
It was like off, I don't really remember the area now. It was very close to where they are now, but it was in Philadelphia.
Okay.
It was really small. And I just like walked in because I knew one of the guys from MPTI. And I was like, I want to see what your gym's like because I'm back in the area. I had to leave my old gym. And I did. I just liked it from the first day. And I stayed with them since.
It's great. It's great. We're very similar in that. Like the circuit training kind of thing that MPTI brought to my fitness, then translated to, you know, trying out CrossFit Renaissance down in Port Richmond, to No Limit, to Raid. And, you know, I don't know that I've ever would have gotten into CrossFit if I didn't go to MPTI.
Yeah, me either. Because I was like, couldn't even squat a barbell. I was like,
yeah, you're just fucking around. You go to the gym. I'm a, 18-year-old dude and we're benching.
Yeah.
And the next day we're doing curls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was my life. You know what
I
mean?
think what if like, again, for me, I think it was really big to like have that confidence that you could learn and talk about it and do it.
Yeah.
And I think that was really big.
Yeah.
And I do see some girls that came out of that pretty confident.
Right.
That's why I feel like if I didn't go there, I probably wouldn't have.
I think Frankie's tearing up the blanket. Frankie.
He definitely is.
That's why we put them up there. They're already fucked up. Son of a bitch. Yeah, Ray, you know what's funny? At this point, most people would know, but when I started at Raid, I was like, this is going to be fucking terrible.
Why?
Because No Limit, I loved No Limit
Yeah.
so much. You know what I mean? Like just like the coaches and the I know Greg just started coaching a little bit ago, but just like the coaches and like Chance and Elena, like they have this nucleus of people that compete together.
Yeah.
And that's what we had at No Limit for years.
Oh, I see.
For
Okay.
years. And, I was in better shape. It's kind of like debatable. Like I'm in good shape now, but back then I was working as a trainer. I was working out twice a day.
Yeah.
I was competing, doing competitions with the owner. And, you have like this tribalism sense to it. Like the gym got weird during COVID. Then he totally changed his programming to not CrossFit.
I did hear about that.
So Megan and I made the decision to go to Raid, and it took me a couple years, but like they all genuinely are good people.
Yeah.
I like a lot of them. You know what I mean? Like Justin's great. We text here and there. I always tell him how much I appreciate his programming. Greg, Melanie, all of them, Jess. Like they're just it's a good place.
Yeah.
And I like the people. I like the gym, and I've started doing competitions with the guys, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great place.
Yeah, I think probably one of the reasons why I've been there so long. Because
Yeah.
like I said, at a gym that was ran by women, and it was a lot of women. And I thought it was a boys' gym, and I was like, ugh, but it wasn't.
No, it's not. It's just a great place.
Yeah. And I did teach women's fitness at a women's gym for a while on top of like doing CrossFit. I did coach a little bit of CrossFit. It was just like on top of my full-time job, it was just too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it was just too much. So I had to like walk away from that because I had to train myself. And the women's fitness was really good. I feel like I really helped a lot of women.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I coached for a couple years at No Limit, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It was good because I feel like sometimes CrossFit coaches, there's like 20 people in the class. Like it's a little overwhelming to show a new person how to do like an overhead squat or a squat snatch. And not that they don't want to, it's just sometimes people get lost in the mix a little bit. So, I always felt that it was important to like really stress how to move. And not that I move great because I don't, but like when you're coaching, you can kind of really.
That's definitely what MPTI does to you. Because it's like the women are always like, oh, we always think about you with like doing things correctly. And these are women that were afraid to touch weights more than 5 pounds.
Yeah.
So that definitely was the school in us.
Well, Barry Fritz, I remember when he taught a stiff leg deadlift, they would have you stand like 6 inches off the wall. You want your knees slightly bent.
Oh, yeah.
Have your ass hit the wall. Feel the pull in your hamstrings and like just little cues like that.
Yeah.
I still hold on to them today. You know what I mean? When I move myself. So
yeah. Now I'm trying to unlearn bad things I've learned over the years.
Dude, I'm the fucking worst with that. Like, I can do all the moves.
Yeah.
I don't do them well. You know what I mean? And like, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I asked Greg like 2 weeks ago, like, because he gave me some pointers on the bar muscle up, and he's showing me, and I'm like, after 3 reps, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to fucking go back to the way I do.
I know. Poor Greg.
It's
He's
it's my own
try
fault.
so hard.
He's like,
won't listen.
like, I think, I swear, the next competition I do, I'm really gonna like try my hardest to like do the fucking moves right. You know what I mean? So whatever. But this is great. So I asked you to do this, and let me back up a little bit. When I first met you, and I say this to my wife too, so this is not like an insult. I'm like, man, I think Kat has like RBF.
What's that?
Resting bitch face.
Yes, I've been told that my whole life.
Yeah. So like, it wasn't until I actually, I don't know how we got into our first conversation or when that even was, until I was like, oh, Kat's cool as shit. And he was like, all right. And then, I was thinking about you, and then just ironically enough, you were at the dinner.
Yeah.
And I asked you, and you were like, cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, the beauty of this is, this podcast for me is like, all the bad decisions in my life were all because of drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Every bad thing that ever happened to me other than my dad dying was because of drugs and alcohol. So you have a completely, in my mind, like a different story.
Yeah.
Right? You're a good person.
Thank you.
You work hard. You're nice. People enjoy being around you. And all of a sudden, you get a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
So like, and you're getting through that like in real time.
Yeah.
Like you can't control that, right? No drugs or alcohol or being a good person or a bad person could have prevented that. That just happened to you, and you had to deal with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that thing that you had to deal with, like in my mind, is like a traumatic experience. How the fuck were you able to get through that? Like walk me through like your life right before you found out.
Well, actually, so I've always been very diligent as I've gotten older, like with doing the things you're supposed to do at the age you are. So
Wait, to stay healthy, you mean?
yeah, to stay
Right.
healthy. Yeah. I mean, for a while, I was very, very health conscious. Then like kind of went up and down for a while. But when you turn 40 as a woman, you're supposed to get a mammogram. So I turned 40, you go to the doctor. They're like, we have to give you a script for this. You make it on your own time. So I waited.
This is a normal thing right now?
This is normal at 40.
Okay.
They're trying to change the age, but at 40. So I waited some time, and then I actually got a text message to my phone saying like, you could schedule this. And I was like, oh, I should schedule this because I was having like a problem. I even said something to my friend, like, actually it was to Melanie. I was like, can you feel my boob? Which is so funny. But so I made an appointment. I had the mammogram. Really wasn't that big of a deal. And I've had like multiple surgeries in my life. Like so going to the doctor is nothing new for me.
You weren't scared?
No, not at all. So I had my mammogram, and they actually wanted to look at it because I never had one before. So they look at it and they're like, we want to do another angle. Okay. So I'm still there. We do another angle. Then they're like, all right, we're going to look at it. We're going to call you and we'll see where we go from there. I'm like,
Do you feel like this is abnormal right now?
no, because I've never had one before.
So you don't even know?
I don't even know. So I'm
Right.
just like, okay. So then they call me and they're like, all right, so we want to do a biopsy. And I was like, oh, okay, why? And they're like, well, we don't know, but the biopsy will help us make sure. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go in for a biopsy, and that was weird. That was definitely weird. And again, I've had surgeries. I've been through so much, was not expecting that. You know, there's a giant needle like coming down at you. You're like in a chair. You're like smushed in this machine. And like, she's like, don't move. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to pass out. She's like, well, don't pass out. And I'm like, okay. Cause like you have a needle that's going in you.
It's crazy.
And again, they take the biopsy and they say they'll call you in a couple of days. So then they call me and they say, we did find something. We do believe it to be cancerous. And I'm like, okay, like, really? Like, I'm so shocked.
Right.
So at that point, they already had me scheduled to see this oncologist, this doctor. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, so I'm like, still don't feel completely worried because I'm like not believing it.
Yeah.
So, and everything's quick. It's not like I'm waiting weeks and weeks. I'm waiting like a couple days. And this was probably like a week later. And I'm sitting in front of this surgeon and she's showing me my images, trying to explain to me, going over everything telling me I do have cancer. And I'm like, okay. And they hit you with everything right away because they hit you with the option of mastectomy, with lumpectomies. They hit you with like what this could be. Like they have pictures. They map everything out for you. Like she's done this.
Like worst case scenarios.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because at this point they don't know everything. They just
Right.
know you definitely have cancer. Here's all the things. We're going to give you all of the stuff at one time so that we don't have to come back, I guess, and shock you. But I'm like overwhelmed because I'm just like, I never thought of this. So now I have to go home and think about this.
Yeah.
But on top of that, then you're scheduled for all these other doctor's appointments because it's not just this one doctor. You have like a team of doctors now because you have your radiation. If you have to get chemo, you have to. I saw cardiologists. Who else was I? So many doctors. Like I just was overwhelmed, I think, with the amount of doctor appointments I had. But for me, it didn't feel so overwhelming because I worked at the hospital I was being seen at.
Okay.
So for me, I was going there every day anyway.
Right.
So most of my appointments were there. I feel that if I wasn't, it would be a little bit more overwhelming having to drive to the hospital every day.
Right. Has like your mortality, thoughts of your mortality set in at this point? Like
No.
this is life or death? You're not even there yet. You're not even there. Yeah.
No, I'm more thinking like, am I going to have to like choose to have a mastectomy? Are they going to tell me? Like, what is it? So then they were like, you're going to see a geneticist. You're going to get a test done by them. And that will definitely help find out if this is from a gene or if this is just because like it just happened.
Yeah, it happens to. Okay.
So when I had that, it came back I didn't have the BRCA gene. And I didn't think that it would because nobody in my family has ever had breast cancer, but they did. Brain cancer is very prominent. So
In your family?
Yeah.
Really?
So I came back, and again, you have to go in. They explain all the things about the genealogy. Sorry, we'll say genealogy, but they're geneticists, whatever. So they explain all this to you, and I'm just like, okay,
Overwhelmed. At this point, you're probably starting to feel it.
yeah. I'm just like, okay, but I still.
Are you by
like,
yourself going to all these
Yeah,
appointments?
I'm by myself. I had my girlfriend come to the one oncology, the first one, because I was like, I don't know what I'm walking into. But after that, again, I'm not going to bring people to come to my work with me. I'm already at work.
Right.
So he explained all this to me when I got it back, and it said that it wasn't the BRCA gene. I was like, great. That's awesome.
What is that? What I mean, to walk me through that. If it was, what would that mean?
So the BRCA gene is definitely high risk. A lot of people who do have the BRCA gene will choose to have a mastectomy.
Okay.
And it runs in the family. It runs in your
Is that what just happened to Angelina Jolie? Did you hear about that? She got double mastectomy. She had a gene.
Yeah, there's a lot of celebrities I think who've opted to have it without having a diagnosis because they have that gene.
What's the likelihood that you get cancer with the gene? I guess it's incredibly high.
A lot higher. Okay. Yeah. But for me, not having it, but they're still saying any of my sister, she should get her first mammogram 10 years earlier.
Okay.
So basically, instead of her having it 40, she should start having it 30. So she really should already have one at this point. I don't know if she scheduled it or not.
Listen.
Yeah. So that was like a positive thing to me, honestly. But then they hit you again with an MRI, and that was the other thing. So I'm sorry, go back. She was like scheduling my surgery before I even knew everything. She was like, okay, I have an opening this day or the end of August, and I was like, I want this done as soon as possible.
Of course.
So yeah, beginning of August, set. And she's like, okay, you're scheduled, but we don't know what we're doing yet until you do all these other tests. So I'm already scheduled, but I don't really know what's happening yet.
Right.
So that's it. And they're saying when you have the MRI, that'll show
Exactly what kind of surgery you need?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool. I've had so many MRIs. I'm not worried about this. They'll be fine. But I decided to drink because my vice is caffeine. So I decided to have 4 shots of espresso before walking into this appointment. And I sit down. So again, and she pulls out like a needle. And I'm like, what is this for? And she's like, oh, this is with contrast. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't know that. And she can't get my vein. And she's going to have to do it for my hand. And she's, because of course I'm full of caffeine. I've had no water. I'm like so dehydrated.
Right.
And
the exact opposite of the way you should have walked in.
Exactly.
But you don't know.
No, I had no
Yeah.
idea. So she's like so mad that she has to put it in my hand. And we go in this room and
She's mad.
she is just like, oh, I hate having to do this. So we go in the room. It's like kind of dark. And I see the MRI machine again, nothing new, but I see like this like head thing for like, you know, when you go to get a massage and your head's in that like circle. So my head's supposed to be in there. And then there's like this space where my boobs are supposed to go. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm going to be face down, with my boobs out
Yeah.
in this little circle, which earplugs in, headphones in, and then there's like a paper to protect the thing. So I'm literally like this, face in, and I just freak out. I like sit up. I'm like, no, this isn't happening. And then they're like
Like a panic attack?
yeah.
type thing?
And this has never happened to me. Like I said, I've had plenty of MRIs, but being that confined and also full of caffeine,
Yeah.
I was like, this is awful.
Heart's going 100 miles an hour.
But in order to have my surgery, I'm like, when I want it, I need these results. So I'm like, you have to do this. So I'm like, all right. And they're so patient. They're so nice. And they're like, all right, lay down. We're going to try again. I get in the tunnel and I'm like, nope, absolutely not. They
did
pull
it
me
again.
out. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't. And they're
Really?
like, you know, well, we can do this. And I'm like, all right, how about, can I come back later? And they like look at me. I'm like, well, I work here. I was like, I'm so full of caffeine. Like maybe later I'll just be more like, you know, together.
Calm down a little bit.
So yeah, they let me go again. They're so nice because I feel so bad because they put me, they're just like setting me up. It's not like they set you up, they put you in. And
It's
then
a whole deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole deal.
So I'm upset with myself and I'm like, come on, like this is ridiculous. So I let my caffeine come out and I'm like saying to myself, like, you have to do this if you want the surgery when you want it. So just figure it out.
But at this point, you don't know what kind of surgery
No,
you're even
still
going to
don't
have.
know.
Okay.
So I went back later in the day. She still has to put it in my hand. She's like, and I said, it was a different girl at that time. I'm like, yeah, you're probably going to have to put it in my hand. She's like, no. And then she's like, I do. So they put me back in and I did like feel it. I was like, then I saw there was like a little mirror and I could, if you see the mirror, you can see out. And I'm like, oh my God, I can see out. So you don't feel so confined. So
Okay.
like looking in the mirror.
You didn't even get that far last time.
No. And I did. I made it through and I actually fell asleep, which I was cracking up because I was like, that's all I needed. Just that relaxing, fell asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while waiting for all that,
Is this days, hours, or like
Days.
Days. Okay.
Yeah.
What was
It
that
was-
like?
again, I wasn't like too worried. I just wanted to know.
Of course.
But I've learned patience as I've gotten older. So I was just like, you'll figure it out. Like when I was younger, I'd be like, I need to know right now.
So you're not even playing it out in your head, like how bad this could
I'm definitely worried.
Right.
I'm worried, but I'm just like, you can't control this. So
And you thought that.
yeah, I'm like, you can't control this. So you just gotta keep doing what you're doing. Because when you're not in any pain.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like when you hurt yourself and you're in pain and it's constantly
It's got to get fixed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not in pain. I'm just like, okay, this
So
is
what's
very mental.
what's like the support now with your girlfriend and your families? Like, do they know everything that's going
Oh
on?
yeah, I told them. I told my parents and my sister and my girlfriend all as soon as I found out that I needed to get surgery. Yeah.
Right.
So, and they were all very surprised because
Of course.
they're like, oh, okay. Nobody in my family has had this. Like, they're friends. My mom's one of her best friends, so she was just. I think they were more scared than me.
Yeah.
So then I honestly still don't know. And it's probably a week before surgery. And I wreck my car.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's totaled. And I think these things are the things that sent me over the ledge. So I was
Just an accident, like a
yeah, it
by
was
chance?
it was a pretty bad accident. Car was coming out. I swerved to miss it, hit another guy, and then came back and hit the kid
Really?
in his car. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So he turned out in front of me on Street Road.
Okay.
So I got hit on both sides of my car.
Were you okay? Did you get hurt in that?
So I was fine. I was really upset because this was like my brand new car that I got. I still didn't pay it off, and the cops were so nice, and he's like, "It's just a car. You can fix it." And I'm like, "This car is not getting fixed." Meanwhile, these children that were in the other car, they called his dad. His dad showed up, and he's like trying to get me to not go through insurance, and I'm freaking out. And I'm in my mind like, I have surgery in a week. This is not what I needed. On top of all this, I asked the cops if I can leave. I'm like, their father is like, I need to leave. And they're like, you can leave. You're good to go. I find out.
He was just kind of being aggressive, or
he didn't want to go through the insurance company.
Yeah, what's up with
And
that?
I know why, because they bought that car for that child that day. Oh. So he just had it off the lot and then got in an accident with it.
Right.
So now I don't have a car because it's totaled. Which I knew it was going to be totaled. So it was totaled. I'm a week out from surgery. And at this point, I'm just like,
What the fuck? Yeah.
like such a bad mood about my car. And I got it at a great interest rate. And I'm like, I can't do anything. But then to try to make me feel better, the weekend before my surgery, we went down the shore for the day with my niece and nephew and my sister. And we were in the water, and my niece, she's little, so a wave was coming, and I went to pick her up. My back went out. Yep. So, and I never hurt my back, so I think maybe some of that was just from the car accident.
Right.
But I had so much adrenaline in me.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
probably
just
so
like,
tight and stiff and don't
Yeah.
feel for a couple of days later.
So now I'm like crippled on the beach for the rest of the day. I'm like, this is awful.
You always seem to have like a good attitude. Like, are you fucking walking around pissed off at this point, or are you kind of just like,
went
it is
up-
what it is?
Oh, it's like walking around. I was just laying there, and then my niece like comes along, and she thinks I'm just laying down. I'm like, no, I'm hurt.
Fucking dying here.
So he's thinking for most of the day because like, what are you gonna do at that point?
Yeah.
And then driving home, I was like, I gotta stop somewhere. So we stopped in an urgent care, and they want to give you muscle relaxers and something else. That's okay. And I'm just like, well, here's the thing. I'm literally supposed to have surgery in like 3 days. And they're like, oh, well, we can't give you any of this stuff because if not, you can't have your surgery. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? So there was no point in me stopping. So I went home. I'm in a pain. So now again, like I don't have a car. My back hurts. I'm about to have surgery. I still don't know what I'm supposed to have. So at this point, I'm just like, this sucks. I don't really like any of this.
No, I can't
All out
imagine.
of my control.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then they did call me and they said the MRI was good. There's like no spreading of the cancer. They don't have to go into my lymph nodes. They literally are just going to like go in. They can do the lumpectomy and
What is so? The mastectomy is when they remove your breast, right?
whole breast,
What's
yes.
the lumpectomy? What is
that's
that?
just when they take the part they need to.
Okay,
All the
okay.
cancerous part.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, this is great.
This is the best case
for
scenario.
me, I'm
Right.
like, this is great. But they're like, you'll still have to do radiation. You'll have to take this medication. I think that was the part that hit me the hardest when they were like, you have to take this medication for 5 years. I was like, what? Okay. And kind of bypassed that. I was like, all right, we'll talk about that later. Like, what? So yeah, I go in, I have the surgery. It was, again, if you've never had a surgery before, it's scary because
Yeah.
they have to put markers in your breast. So So you go into this other room, people come in, they take pictures, and they put these, they're not like little needles, these big markers in your breast. So when the surgeon goes in, they know the margins.
Right. Okay.
But surgery went pretty well. I was a little nervous, but overall I was just like, they're not taking the whole thing. It's going to be fine. And it was like, I woke up, I wasn't really in pain. I felt good. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was shocked about like the margins that they took and what it looked like. Cause I didn't look at it for probably 24 hours. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's not horrible.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a huge shock for people that have to have a full mastectomy. And that has to be really scary.
Yeah. My mother-in-law, she had I guess a double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, she came up to me in the gym when she found out. She was very supportive.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing, too. Like, all of these appointments that I went to, I was the youngest person there. It was, like, very hard. And that was the other reason why I kept wanting to go to the gym, because I was like, I need to see people that are, like, doing
Stuff
that are, like, sick.
Yeah.
That part gets hard, like, seeing sick people everywhere you go. And you're like, I'm not as sick as them, but you're still going through it.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel bad. But at the same time, you're like, well, I really am sick. It's not like I'm like here faking it,
Right.
you know? So after surgery, I was like, all right, it's cool, great. And then that's when all the other crap comes. And I think that part's kind of harder, because that's the part where, like, if you have to do chemo, luckily for me, I didn't have to, but I can only imagine. But this is where I go to the cardiologist, and then you get like your blood taken a million times, and every single person looks at your boobs. Like, everywhere you go, you're like, this doctor and now this doctor.
Yeah, all poking and prodding.
Yeah. But overall, I had a great experience with all of them until I got to the doctor. I couldn't even tell you what kind of doctor it is, but it's the doctor who gives you the medication.
Mm-hmm.
Went to him and hated him. Like,
just not a personality, just a...
No, so when, like, I went in, he got my cancer confused with a different kind of cancer. Because when he said it, and I was like so confused, because I was like, I don't think that's the kind of breast cancer I have. And he said, I'm sorry, I've seen a lot of breasts today. And I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
great way to introduce yourself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then he asked me about like birth control and like what I said to him. And then he literally Googled it in front of me. And I'm like, this is so weird. And then he said, oh, I don't want to give you this medication until you're done radiation, or you'll hate me. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so the medication is an estrogen blocker, because my type of cancer is like estrogen based.
Okay.
So basically it would block your estrogen. And I was just like, not about this. So I was just like, we're just going to ignore this whole thing until later.
But like, he should be the one telling you what time it is, right? Like what you're supposed to be doing, right?
He didn't make it seem like something I wanted to do. That's for sure. He was just saying like, oh, you're going to feel this way and this way. And then we have to monitor your kidneys, I think, afterwards. And I'm just like, none of this sounds great. Like, this sounds no.
But I'm confused. Like, I'm not by your reaction, but you're going to the doctor for the medicine to keep you cancer free. So just tell me what the fuck I need to do. I'll do that.
Right.
Like, what he's giving you options. It seems like it's kind of weird.
He's basically just telling me how crappy I'm going to feel in this medication. But they keep saying my type of cancer has a 22% chance of return. So the medication would lower that chance.
Okay.
And still, to me, I'm just like, okay, 22% ain't that high, but compared to what you're telling me, we'll see.
All right.
So, but that wasn't until after radiation anyway. So
at this point, how long since you've gotten your diagnosis to this point? How long has it been?
like a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been through a lot in that 5-6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a car. Luckily, I got a car back. My back stopped hurting after surgery. But like, even like sitting in surgery, I was like, oh my God, my back hurts so bad. And I'm just going to be laying here. And they're like, don't worry, you'll be asleep soon and you won't feel anything. And I'm like, true.
Right.
But even after, like, I think I only waited a couple days, probably like 3 or 4 days until I came back to the gym, because I was like, I need to go back.
Because I don't remember you being gone for long.
No.
Yeah.
And people were like shocked. And I was like, I know me and I know my body.
Sure.
So well at this point. I'm like, I know what I can do and what I definitely shouldn't do.
Right.
I just need to move. So moving was great. And it also like kept my mind busy. So
It's the only time you can shut off for real.
Yeah.
That's how I am. Yeah.
So I was like, what am I going to do? Just sit around like at home? Like, I'm capable of doing a lot of things, so I should do them.
Right.
So everything was pretty fine, honestly, until I started to do radiation. And that's when it like took a turn I wasn't ready for. That's when it felt like the most real. Because radiation is every day for a month. You have to go to the hospital every day, and they put you under this machine that gives you this dose of radiation. And there's side effects with it. And it just sucked.
It sucked.
Yeah.
Could you work at this time too?
So
or
that was the other thing. Again, I work there, and they were like really good about like, if you need to stay home, stay home. And I was just like, but I'm here. It was pointless for me to drive 45 minutes into work, get the treatment, and
leave.
turn around and go home.
Yeah.
It's just more of a hassle. So I would stay and work, and then I would go to the gym, and I would just like push through it. But I was so tired. I had like a rash. It was like itchy. It was burny, and it was just the first couple weeks. It was like, okay, fine. But again, like I had to go to the cardiologist because radiation was on my heart side, so they had to monitor my heart. I'm supposed to go back actually soon.
Okay.
But I was like, my heart's great. I know my heart's great. And he's like, yeah, your heart's great. And I'm like, I'm duh.
I told you.
I know this. So I think a lot of the things are put in place, especially for the older people, you know, like luckily for me, I was in great health going in. I could bounce back a lot quicker. And even with the radiation, like they had to monitor that, and I'd see the doctor, he'd look at me and he's like, this is really not that bad compared to what I've seen. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, and it's not. It sucks. It hurts. But like the pain and the burning, and it feels like a really, really, really bad sunburn. If it wasn't, I could deal with it.
Right.
But getting tired was the really hard part because I was like, no, I need to go to the gym. I don't want to just go home and go to sleep. I don't want to fall into depression.
Yeah, that's how I would imagine how it starts.
Yeah. And like mentally, I definitely was needing medication for that space. So I was talking to a lot of different, my PCP and doctors about that kind of stuff. And they kept saying to me, like, this is big deal. Like, you're trying to downplay it, but this is big. And I'm like, but okay. Like, it didn't feel like it was as horrible as it could have been, even though it was horrible.
Right. Now, like, I said this to my sister when I did the podcast with my sister, like, the most resilient people don't realize that they're resilient.
I guess that's what it is.
Right. So like your whole attitude during this time, like I would love for me to sit here and look at you and say, I would think I would feel the same way, but who the fuck knows? You know what I mean? But like, it seems like you're just like, I'm going to get through this.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that mindset as your family at this point, like, Kat, like this is fucking serious, dude. Like,
no, I think they kind of wanted to be more supportive. And I was like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. This is totally fine.
Yeah, you act like you broke a bone. That's nuts. I can't imagine what that was like for you, but it sounds like there was only one way to be, and that was the way you were.
Yeah. So. I think, and that's the thing, like so it was like the last week of radiation, I was done. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it started to get like upsetting. And they were like, this is normal. We're so close to being done. They knew I was done with it. And the radiation nurses, again, amazing. So nice. Hi, you want to talk with us? They were so nice. And again, I never saw anybody my age. I saw all these very older people, and it felt weird to be there. And I felt weird to be doing so well. So when I did graduate out of radiation, they were like, do you want to ring the bell? And I was like, okay. I felt so weird. I was like, okay. So I like rang the bell and they were like, yay. And they gave me this diploma.
Well, that's a good thing for the other people to see that you've gotten through it, right? So that's probably why they do it. I get that. I get that.
Yeah, when you're done radiation, it's a graduation. You get a little diploma. So then I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And then they're like, oh, that medication. And I'm like, I don't want to. And they're like, well, why not? And I'm like, I'm 40. I still work out all the time. I feel very healthy. I don't want to go through early menopause.
That was one of the side effects of it?
Yeah. And that's a big thing for someone who's younger. If I was older, maybe I would feel different. So I decided not to. And that's my decision. Because again, I still have a 22% chance of it coming back because I don't take that medication.
Well, how much did it decrease the odds if you took it?
It still wasn't 0%, but it was a lot lower. 0% it would be if I had like a double mastectomy. And some people, like I said, they choose to do that. But since the testing came back that I didn't have the gene, I would bypass that for many reasons. One also being recovery. It's a different recovery.
Yeah, the whole game changes at that point.
Yeah. So, and the onset, and that's the other thing, they do tell you this, but again, I was just like, no, this is fine. They're like, you will still feel the effects of this 6 months after radiation. Because after radiation, I was like, oh my God, I was back in the gym and I felt so much better. I wasn't tired all the time. I felt stronger again. Like my cells were like, okay, we're all good. Everything felt so good. And then I didn't even notice it, but it was 6 months and I started feeling crap. And
Really?
I was like, why do I feel so crappy all the time? And they were like, you're 6 months post radiation. Like this is when it hits you.
And this is a normal part of the
Normal.
process.
And I was like, oh, okay. So after all that, I did have a 6-month follow-up. That was clean. And then 1 year is actually tomorrow.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, so my 1 year follow-up is tomorrow. Don't know how to feel about it. Because like now I have to be followed up 6 months, every 6 months for 2 years. And then after 2 years, I think it's every year.
I think that's where Renee's at now. It's every year.
That follow-up. So that's like always having to go back. You can't ignore it. I mean, you can, but do you want to?
Right.
And I think that's what scares a lot of people. A lot of people are scared from the beginning about just getting the mammogram. A lot of people don't do that part. But why wait
Yeah.
at this point?
That's wild. My the only reason why my dad found out he had lung cancer was he was retired, and my sister probably has more information, but he got something in the mail to have a random lung screening
Oh, wow.
that he did not plan to have, and he's like, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then he fucking had lung cancer.
That's crazy.
You know, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So for me, I feel lucky, but I also feel that,
But grateful.
yeah, of
course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Extremely grateful. And that I didn't let the other things that were happening on top of that just surmount so much that it depleted me. And there were definitely, I mean, I went to Italy during the middle of this and I cried every day in Italy because like I was on trying new medications for my feelings and it made me feel crazy. And I was like also thinking about high radiation when I came back. And I was like, oh, this is supposed to be this great trip. Like they pushed my radiation back so I could go to Italy. And then I went to Italy and cried every day there. I had a good time. I did. But like I came back and it was like not the most amazing trip I had ever had that people
So you need a redo.
Yeah.
Need a redo.
I already do. Not to Italy though. I'll go somewhere else.
So you had a partner this whole time?
Yeah.
And how was she during this process?
Oh my God. She was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was great. And she also knows that I take care of myself and she never had to like be like, oh, you have to do this or make sure you do this. She just knew I was going to do it. Right. She was just there if I needed her.
Yeah.
So, and she came from my surgery. I actually had one of my aunts was one of the nurses there at the surgery center. So she came in and that felt really nice too.
Yeah.
She looked scared and I was like, why does my aunt look scared? and my mom was like, Aunt Peggy was really worried about you. And I was like, oh my God. She's like, she talked to your doctor. I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, that makes me feel good, but also like scared because she does this for a living. But I think she works more with orthopedics than oncology. So
got it. So this is like a little bit more real for her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So what's it like now for you? I mean, tomorrow's your year. I see you in the gym all the time. I mean, you seem like you're back to normal. Like, are there still effects from the surgery and the radiation?
There are a lot of effects after with just like pain, scar tissue. Your skin is tight for a long time after the radiation. But it did go away. And you just have to kind of like get through it, you know, just kind of like it's going to get better and keep thinking it's going to get better. And it did. And for now, I don't really have much effects. I do say like when you're on the pull-up bar, you feel it.
Really? Still?
Yeah, you feel it. It's like pulling. But with my shoulder, I've been staying away from that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's like, it's funny because like you're at the gym every day. I mean, I'm speaking in general and you don't know what a person's going through.
No.
You know what I mean? Like I can only have myself. I'm just like, no one knows I'm trying not to get high today before I got sober. You know?
No, yeah.
It's like,
and you see that yeah, a lot of people in the gym didn't know at first. Like I told my close friends, especially it was like I was crying about turning 40 and I was like, no, I'm going to make it so much better. It's going to be fine. And then I was like, it's not fine. It's different. It sucks. Now I have cancer. And I'm like, this sucks. But you also have like that support system there with your friends. Yeah. And if they do know, they'll support you. That's like the other good thing. If you're not hiding everything. If you're just going in there, working out and going home.
Yeah.
You get what you put in there.
Yeah. I would always joke around, and I've said it a few times on here, like, if you ever saw me in the gym just squatting and doing push-ups and pull-ups, I was either high that day, trying not to get high, or just super depressed.
I definitely remember you coming in and doing like 1 million push-ups. Like, he's over here just doing 1 million push-ups. Like, you literally came in and did that. I remember this. And it's definitely before I knew that. Yeah.
I still get made fun of. I did the class yesterday, and Justin's going over how to do a push-up, and he's saying the wrong way to do it is the way I do it. I'm like, I ain't doing the fucking push-up to get jacked. Because like I'm super lazy and depressed. I just feel like I had to do something.
God.
That's great. That's a great place. Like, that's why I love the place so much. You know, I got to meet, you know, Bucky, Casey, right? I didn't even realize Casey and I are in the same industry. She's actually coming to my job on Tuesday. There's just so many great people there.
Right. And that's the other thing, like, people think we're crazy for like going to CrossFit gym and all this, but like you have a lot of the community, your community there, you know, and I feel like that's for all different kinds of people. Like
Absolutely.
For me, if people do know, I've had 2 different people come up to me and say, oh, like I've had this, like they found something and now I have to do this. What is it going to be like? Because they don't know.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I can tell you what it's like, what I went through. And knowing that might help them, because I feel like I went in blind for everything. I was like, you want me to do what? Wait, we're doing
how
what
else
now?
most people I imagine do, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I guess so. So, and I feel like every time I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Like, it was just like so crazy. Even the radiation, like I had no idea what I was getting into. And luckily it was not horrible, but it still is the process.
Yeah, it's, you said you were going into a blind, and
Yeah.
I remember when, like, you know, there's good doctors and there's bad doctors, just like there's good carpenters and bad carpenters. You know what I mean? That's
sure.
Like, so you just don't fucking know, right? So I remember when my dad got his diagnosis, the guy basically tells me he has 6 months to live. Right? And I'm sitting there, my sister's on speaker. So my job isn't the job where I can take off randomly, but I wanted to go to the first visit. And at this time, we don't know. You know, he got 20% of his lung removed a year prior. First 6-month checkup was good. Second 6-month checkup, it was everywhere. And I'm immediately like, how the fuck does that even happen?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. How do you go from not knowing anything to you're dying? Like,
So,
what?
you know, and my dad at this point was, he died sober, but he was on pain meds. Fucking cancer everywhere. You got to be on pain meds. So
Absolutely.
he was feeling a little loose in the doctor's office, and I could tell. And he asked the doctor, like, my dad was very blunt, old school Italian, like, give it to me straight. How long do I got? And I'm sitting there, my sister's on speaker, and he's like, I've seen in this case, if you do X, Y, and Z, you got like 6 to 9 months. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But from that point on, the biggest problem I think that I have today is, like, I should have brought like a fucking nurse with me. You know what I mean? Like my sister.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Like, or like somebody that knew what the fuck, like if you wanted your basement done.
yeah.
Right. Maybe you'd have someone there to make sure you're not getting robbed with the
Absolutely.
price.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like we didn't do a good job of that. But I partly think that my dad just played everything so tight to the vest.
Oh yeah.
We never really knew what he was going through. And I'm not blaming him, but like we never really knew what he was going through until it was too fucking late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you could play that over and over again, like woulda, coulda, shoulda type shit. I don't dwell on it, but
You can't.
no, you can't. You can't.
And that's the thing with like more invasive cancers. Like you don't know, like if they find it, when they find it, it's a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing.
So do you think about that? Like the what ifs, or are you just trying to stay in the moment? And
I definitely think about if it was to come back. I'm always like, oh God, I have to go through that again. I mean, if it was to come back, it would be a completely different than surgery. It would be a completely different.
yeah, all the circumstances would change.
Everything would change.
But even
So-
what you just said, oh, I got to deal with that again.
Yeah, I wouldn't want
But
to.
no, but like my point is, you'd be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
You don't seem like the type of person. listen, I'm speculating. I can't, obviously I'm not in your shoes, but there's only one way to handle it, like I said earlier, and is to just take it one day at a time, just get through it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people have a lot of anxiety. I do have some, but I do manage it with medication. But there are some people that are just highly anxious people, and like they would definitely handle it different, I think. And also, if you've never had a surgery before, you know, you've never had a serious diagnosis before, or, you know, everybody goes through some kind of pain. And I think I've gone through a lot of different, like I've had 4 hand surgeries. I've had a shoulder surgery. I've worked in a hospital forever. So for me, I was like, okay, I felt pretty safe with these doctors too.
Right.
For the most part. I think that definitely makes a difference.
Sure.
And it, again, is different than an orthopedic thing. It's like, oh, I don't have control over this, you know?
Yeah.
The only thing I can control is how I act towards it and like getting out of bed and still moving.
Yeah.
Still doing things.
That's the only way to fucking do it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah. And it's completely different too, because like for me, luckily, like I didn't need any kind of pain medications. I'm lucky, I think, with that part, because I think that plays a whole different role.
Oh, that would be tough.
Yeah.
My wife wouldn't, I don't think she would allow it, but if it was something totally mandatory, you know, obviously she would be in control of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I haven't talked about this much, but when I got out of treatment, like 2 or 3 months in after treatment, I had like all these heart issues.
Yeah.
It was fucking freaking me out, right? So you start off, you go to, my sister got me into the ER right away, and you know, with like the waves, my heart waves were off, and then I had to go to see a specialist, and like similar to you, like at this point I'm like, I'm sure it's nothing, but like something's going on.
Yeah.
And then you do the stress test on the treadmill, and something was wrong, and then I had to get the cardiac catheterization. They thought I had a blockage, and I was going to need a stent.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And I'm like, you know, I'm in great, well, I was in really good shape, better shape now, but 3 months after treatment, I was like back into the gym every day. And I actually, I don't know, this is going to sound weird, but I actually wanted there to be something wrong.
So you didn't feel like it was
In vain, or like I was losing my fucking mind, you know, and they told me I had the blockage, that you might need a stent put in. I'm like, oh, good. Like, and then
having an answer makes that anxiety level go down so much.
It's not that I wanted something to be wrong, but I just wanted there to be a fucking answer.
Yeah.
And then you get the stress test, you do the cardiac catheterization, which is fucking weird. Just like you said, there's like 6 people in the room, they're going through my fucking artery, and I'm like, this is crazy. And then they did another thing. I don't know if it's an MRI. I'm terrible with terminology, but they put some kind of fluid in my veins to see.
You probably had like a CAT scan.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And they put the fluid in, and then turns out there was absolutely nothing wrong.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, what the fuck is it?
Yeah.
It has went away since, but for like 2-3 months straight, it would just come and go out of nowhere. I don't know if it was like stress induced or like that's what they kept saying.
Yeah.
Like, but like I didn't feel like stress or anxiety. You know, I always get a little occasional Sunday scaries, but like I wasn't driving around or going to work. Like we're battling with sobriety.
But also like you don't think you're in this high level of stress and anxiety, but you're just used to that.
You know what and that's what my therapist says.
Yeah.
Like,
so you're like, nothing feels different, but it's just because you're living in that state of anxiety most of the time. So it just feels normal.
So I get out of treatment day after Thanksgiving, and I have to go to work Monday, and my job was so cool about it. And I knew the owner was going to meet me in the morning, and I was like stressed. I was so fucking scared, stressed. Like, you know, they know I'm a fucking addict, know I was in rehab. I woke up Monday morning, ran 5 miles.
Oh my God.
Just to take the anxiety down.
Yeah.
And like when I get there, the guy was like over the top, awesome. You know, nope, I didn't have to do any of that.
That's
you know, but like we
crazy.
just make up these things in our minds, and it's like,
yeah, that's the other thing. You can't think ahead of like what it's, if you don't know, like that's the other thing. Well, I think that was actually better for me not knowing like what the radiation was going to be like, because it was like all like, oh, okay. Oh, we're doing this now? Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't like making up scenarios in my head. The only scenario I was making up in my head was like, am I going to have a mastectomy or not? Like, or
That's
am I
huge.
going to lose my hair or not? Like, how am I going to continue my normal days, my normalcy with these new things?
yeah.
So, but I also have, in my past, I had gotten really sick and nobody could give me a reason. And they just kept giving me medication. They gave me Tramadol. They gave me, what's the very heavy one to like try to sleep?
I don't know. But they gave you that
Valium.
Valium. Oh,
Valium.
really?
Yes. So going through all that, I also think that changed my aspect too, because that was really hard going through that. They didn't have a diagnosis back then. They kept telling me I had fibromyalgia, and I was like, okay, like I had lost weight. I started eating really healthy. I quit smoking, and then they were like, you have fibromyalgia. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. And they're like, here, we have no way to treat this, so we're just going to give you medication after medication. And then after not sleeping for literally almost 7 months, I just went to doctor and somehow came out of it, but it was really bad.
Yeah.
I
It's a
lost
whole not knowing. It's crazy.
I lost my mind during
I can't
that.
imagine.
So I feel like that probably made a lot of things easier, because that was me going through doctor and no one knowing what was wrong with me and just saying, well, here's a new pill. And I'm like, but why are you giving me this pill? Like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
So then I'm not taking these pills, and then I can't sleep at night because I'm in so much pain. So then they're like, here's a pill for sleeping. And I'm like, cool. And I would take it, and then I would just wake up anyway. So I would just be like, what's going to stop me from just taking all these pills? Nothing, because they keep giving them to me.
Huh.
So luckily,
did you ever find out what happened or what it was?
I mean, I finally found this doctor. He was absolutely amazing. And he said that on top of having like it was like a shoulder issue in my other shoulder, but it was like in my back. And it was just like depleting me, but also not sleeping for so long. My organs in my body was literally shutting down. And then being depressed on top of that, like I went from like 100 and I think 50 pounds down to like 126.
Really?
I was in so much pain every day. I would like literally just I was a shell of a person, and no one could give me an answer. So I think that really pushed me more than anything else. I somehow got through that. And when I found him, he was like, we're going to treat your depression. We're going to treat this, and we're going to treat this. And it wasn't just like, here's medication. He was like, we're going to pull it all together. And then I slowly came out of it, started to gain some weight back, and started to feel better.
Well, you said, as you were telling that story, that getting through that made this cancer process easier, right?
It did.
Yeah. So
Absolutely
to me, it's like, I read this book, The Obstacle is the Way. I got a tattoo on my arm. You know what I mean? That's just because I'm crazy. But like getting through hard things makes the harder things down the road easier to get through.
Yeah, it definitely does.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's great.
It sucks though. Like everybody
when you're
has
in it,
to go through something hard, you know?
Yeah.
It definitely sucks, but
it's the dark time. I call it the dark time. You know, in sobriety, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm just in the fucking dark time.
Yeah.
I don't got to drink over this.
yeah.
It's just a dark time.
Yeah.
Keep doing
I know. And I think about, it was 2014. I'm like, I don't remember a thing from that year except for being in pain for an entire year.
It's crazy.
So I have no good memories from that whole year. So it's just like it's a black blank spot.
Really?
Yeah. So I really feel like, and that was the thing with cancer. That's the other thing with cancer. It's not like, here's just a pill. It's like, oh, they have a process for everything. They're like, you're going to see this doctor and that doctor, and and you're like, okay, like you may go into it blind, but they already have it all set up for
Yeah,
you.
the plan's already there.
They have it for you. Yeah. So hopefully tomorrow I get good news, and that's the other thing. Like once you do have this diagnosis, you go in, they have a doctor right there that reads this information. So if they have to do more imaging or if they see something, you aren't finding out days later. You're finding out the same day.
What time's your appointment?
1:00.
1 o'clock.
Yep.
Well, will I expect to see you at the gym after?
Oh yeah,
All right.
for sure.
All right.
I'm hoping just a clean bill of health, and we'll see you in 6 months.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, there's no other way to think
No.
than that.
No, you'll just drive yourself
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Just drive yourself to bad places. So find the good thing and try to stick with that, you know?
That's it.
And also like give yourself, that's the other thing I had to learn, was to give myself the okay to have a shitty day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be like, okay, it's fine.
Yep. That was one of the first things. You're probably somewhat familiar with how AA works. You get a sponsor. That was one of the first things he said to me when I called him and having a shitty day. He's like, your fucking problem is you think you're supposed to feel good all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, you got a treatment and you're riding on a high. You know, Megan and I connected. My daughter was very forgiving. Renee,
Right.
my
You're like,
mother-in-law
oh my
was.
God, this is great.
Yeah, and then, you know, shit happens. And I was feeling sad, miserable, and depressed for literally no reason. And he's like, dude, that's normal. You're a
Yeah.
human being.
Yep.
You know, you go to bed happy, wake up sad, like that happens.
Right. If you're happy all the time, you're faking it.
Fucking A, man. Fucking A, dude. Life is hard as shit, man.
Right?
You know, like I was just talking to a buddy like the other day, like life isn't fair or unfair. It just fucking is what it is. You know, I can't dwell, and you probably agree, you can't dwell on the negativity. You know what I mean? Like if I don't think about the positives in the situations or the silver linings, like I'm fucking doomed. And I'm an addict. Like there's only one way I get out of this shit. And like, you just can't do it today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to have you on because, you know, cancer, addiction, like you're getting through something that's fucking tough. And like, how do you do it?
Right.
Well, you stay positive, you deal with it one day at a time. Yeah. And it's going to shake out the way it's supposed to, regardless of how you feel anyway.
Seriously.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Even if I was crappy about it every day, it would be the same.
The outcome would probably have been the same.
Yeah. I just wouldn't have done all the things that I did around it, you know?
Yeah. Well, think about all the things you did positively during this whole process. You still went to the gym. You still went to work. You still talked to people. You know,
Still went to Italy.
Still went to Italy, crying like a baby the whole time, eating pizza.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like with October, it's breast cancer awareness month.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, it's going to be everywhere, just like how every other month has a devotion. October is breast cancer awareness month.
How do you feel about that, breast cancer awareness month? Because Renee has her own take on it. I'm just curious. Like she's not like real into the cancer runs.
No.
I think she like, I don't know if she internalizes it. She actually went out to dinner with her last night. We're going to do one together as well. Me, her, and Megan to go through her experience.
Yeah. Good.
But she's not big on that thing.
Yeah. I think it all depends on the person for sure.
Yeah. I don't think it's right or wrong.
No. I did the 3-day when I was younger in my 20s.
What is that?
It's a 3-day breast cancer walk. It's like 26 miles a day. It's absolutely insane. It's a Susan G. Komen thing. I think I just did it because I wanted to do something, not for breast cancer specifically, but just something to see what, I wasn't a marathon runner. I just wanted to see what that was like. And that was crazy. Like the community of these women who's gone through cancer, it was crazy. And you're with these women for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I was like 26 years old. I was like a child, like, oh, wow, this is crazy. Didn't think it was going to
touch you the way it did.
Touch me.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't feel like I have to do all these walks or do all these things, but I do want my friends to go get their mammogram.
Yeah.
Just go do it, please.
Yeah.
Even because, like I said, I had no really reason to do it except that my age came and got the script, and I was like, oh, okay, so just do it.
I know.
You know?
Megan and you are like more similar than you might realize. Like, you know, she's 35 and her mom has, you know, had cancer, and you know, she should be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she knows it. And it's not laziness. It's just life is so intense. And it's hard to allot the time to do that. And like,
it is, but there's never a good time to have cancer.
No.
So.
Right.
So it's better to just find out, you know, than keep putting it off.
Yeah, because she's a gene carrier that changes the whole game, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yes, that's the other thing. And a lot of people don't want to know, and I find that even scarier because I'm in really good shape now. What if I found out in 10 years where I wasn't really in good shape and it would be completely different? You know, even with my shoulder surgery, you know, I was young. I was only 35. I was like, well, why don't I just do it now instead of waiting until I'm older? Because like my father, he now is retired and his shoulders are so bad and he's not going to have the surgery. And if he did, it would be so different for him because he wouldn't be able to pick up his grandkids and even bending over, going up and down steps. Like for me, I was everywhere after my shoulder surgery. I was at the supermarket. Like I was just like, I'm going to do whatever I can do with one arm. But as you get older, that changes. So why not find out when you're young and healthy?
Yeah.
Or why not find out when you're young and healthy? Even if you're not healthy, find out now, and then you can change that pattern.
Right. Do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I said earlier, the most resilient people don't realize they're resilient, you know, and like just knowing you from like the way I know you at the gym, which is not that much, but just being able to talk to you.
Yeah.
Whatever. And I have a tendency to do that, like for no reason with whoever, just have a conversation just because why the fuck not?
Yeah. Why
and
not?
we hit it off. And when I saw you at dinner, I'm like, you know what? Fuck, I'm just going to ask her. Yeah. And so thank you for doing this.
Of course. I was like, I was like, well, I don't know if this really goes with what you like are putting out there. But then I was like, well, this is still a way to get this information out there for someone who could be struggling.
I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like, and when we started it, Megan and I, that's what we thought about. Like, the day before rehab, just take the term rehab out of there. It's just an arbitrary term. The day before your diagnosis, the day before you were depressed, like Casey had something with the eating disorder. You know, Bucky had some mental illness. Obviously, a lot of people I have had on here had drug and alcohol problems, but it's something challenging that you have to get through that fucking sucks, whether it's self-induced or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, so I just think it's super important for people to just understand how someone like you have gotten through it. And like, you know, for me, like I struggle, like I get through addiction every day, one day at a time.
yeah.
And there's a certain set of things that I do every day that helps me stay sober. And my mindset is, well, I would have did whatever it took to get high. So I could do these X, Y, and Z things to stay sober.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and there was a certain set of things that you did to get through what you gotten through. And I think it's all relatable.
That
You
is
know what I
totally
mean?
true.
Yeah.
I agree with that because, and then other people hearing all these different stories, like hopefully they feel that they can get through these things too, because everybody has something.
That's the truth. And like the best thing now for me is like you get sober, you stop being a self-centered piece of shit, if I'm being honest, and you kind of understand that somebody might be going through something that
Right.
you're not aware of.
Yeah.
So be careful how you talk to people, how you interact with them, because you never know.
No.
You never know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like super simple, like just saying hello, just having a conversation. Like the gym, like for me, the gym is equally as important. If I was in an AA meeting, I would never say this, but equally as important as AA. I need to be able to shut my brain off
Yeah.
for an hour and a half a day and not think about anything. Because like life's fucking tough. You know, you got work, you got school, you got relationships. Like,
So I think that's just like send people out to find something else besides work and TV.
yeah.
Because if I just went to work and came home and did nothing, like really, because I don't have children or anything, you know, some people they can put that time with their kids, but if you just come home and like sit in it, like that's really
Terrible.
depressing.
Terrible.
So like find something.
Yep.
Yeah.
The opposite of addiction is connection. That's what I learned in rehab.
That makes total sense.
It does, right? Because like most times when I'm feeling like shit, not now, but I would just internalize it. And so here's what they say. Prior to a relapse, you lose like your spirituality, right? And then you lose kind of like your mental state starts to shift. And then you relapse, and then physically your body starts to shut down, depending on what kind of drugs you were doing. But like, so the opposite happens when you get sober. You get your physical back first, then you kind of get your mental faculties back, and you kind of know what's going on, and then you get the spiritual connection, and that's how you stay sober. You develop your spiritual connection, and like, I don't know that I'm like a big religious guy, but
there's still something.
I pray,
Yeah.
and I believe, and I believe that when I pray, you know, I'm in a better spot than if I didn't. You know what I mean? So I'm a fucking Neanderthal. Just keep it simple. I really am. Like some of these people in life just can complicate everything. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if there's a God or not. Like I believe what I believe. You know, why complicate it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever helps you get through the day.
And that you're bringing us back to our Catholic school upbringing.
Yeah, listen, I just, there's a lot of people in AA, they have their own concept of God, which is fine. But some people complicate it. I'm like, well, I just believe the God that I learned in fucking first grade religious class.
Yeah.
Like there's somebody out there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
As long as there's someone, I think that you, or something that you
Something,
believe in,
yeah.
that's helpful for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this.
Of course.
I'm glad my mind has brought us closer. So I appreciate it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wish me luck for tomorrow.
Yeah, good luck for tomorrow.
That's all I
I'll be texting you, and I'll see you at the gym.
Yeah.
My man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I guess I want to end it this way.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.
We love you, Dad.
I love all of you.
We love you, daughter.
I love you too.
Wow, that was nice.
And I tell you what, let's go.